Good morning and welcome to Friday, May 15th, 2020. And today's devotion is titled Martyrs. And we'll be reading out of Matthew 24, verse 9. And it reads, "Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake." From the beginning of God's blessing on Abraham and throughout history, his descendants have been hated. Yes, there were periods that were not being attacked and killed, but Satan's goal has always been, and will continue to be, to annihilate the Jewish people. As always, he will fail. Still, Satan is tenacious. He will never stop trying to kill off God's people until the day he is ultimately and finally cast into the lake of fire. In the meantime, he will continue to stir up haters, and during the time of the Great Tribulation, many Jewish and Gentile believers will be martyred. They will be killed simply because of their religious and national heritage. Unfortunately, they are not the only ones Satan hates. He hates every child of God. Since Stephen, the first named martyr in the New Testament, believers have been killed in the most horrific ways. As the writer of Hebrews describes, their deaths were pure torture. And you can read that in Hebrews 11:37. The fact is that horrible deaths of Christians today are not unique to believers of any time period, but they do seem to be on the rise the world over. And no doubt they will increase, so much so that if the Lord does not intercede, they will be wiped out. On the other hand, martyrs for Jesus' sake are issued a white robe and admonished to rest for a little while. God never wastes. Let me start that sentence over again. On the other hand, martyrs for Jesus' sake are issued a white robe and admonished to rest for a little while. God never wastes the death of a saint. While the enemy of Jesus may kill the body, they cannot touch the soul, which lives forever. And our final thought is, death is the only door that we pass through to enter into the glories of heaven. You know, it's taught that the most profound thing that you can do for Jesus, the number one thing that you can do in his eyes, is to die for him and to die in his name. Because that's the ultimate action that anybody can take. Because once you take that act of being killed, that's pretty much it, and that's common sense. But, you know, kind of like a husband is to put his life before his wife. He is to sacrifice his life to save his wife and children. And that's the most noble thing a husband can do. The most noble thing a Christian can do is sacrifice their life for the name of the Lord. You know, and it's only suited and it's only fitting that we're willing to do that because Christ did that for us already. Christ did that most noble of acts for us. He gave his life for us. It's only proper that the greatest sacrifice we can make is to give our lives back to him. Now, fortunately, we live in a country where that's not required to give up your life to be a Christian. But in many parts of the world, that is the case. And it's going to increase, and it's going to get worse and worse. You already see it in our country where, maybe not through death here in the United States, but through other actions, Christians are being persecuted. Christians are being singled out in a negative way in our own country. We see it, especially during this pandemic. You know, we see this phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 as far as opening society back up to the public. But where do you see churches on that list? Bars, restaurants. Here in Vegas, where I live, a lot of establishments are being reopened already. However, churches are still put on the back burner and being told you can't open just yet. Where does that place the church in priorities? At the bottom. So Christians are already starting to see that persecution. And it's just going to escalate and get worse and worse and worse. But don't worry, it's all good. Remember, Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for good for those who love God. Sure, it seems like it's a bad thing, and it is a bad thing for us in the present. But in the future, ultimately, it's going to work out for the good because the Lord has plans for the tribulations that we're going through in the present. So fear not, don't be weary, don't get bogged down in the mire and muck of, well, I don't want to be a Christian because of all the bad things. No, take it as an honor, and it's a worthy praise. When Satan's attacking you, that means you're doing something right for God. Just remember that. So when bad things happen, praise God. You're on his team. That's why you're being singled out. So with that, there's a little bit of encouragement for you in case you are struggling with something. Just remember that if you're struggling and you're a Christian, then you're obviously doing something right for the Lord. So let that sink in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. We're getting closer to being able to go out in free society like we used to, so it's coming, folks. Hang in there. Keep the faith, keep praying, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. God bless.